welcome to the Cave Trolls Podcast. My name is Terry Smith. Today with me, I have Jordan.
Woo!
And I have Dave.
Hello.
Do you guys just ever have those days where you hate everybody you work with?
Yep.
Yeah,
That
very.
was my morning this morning.
Very frequently.
I don't hate everybody I work with because I'm going to redact that right now because I know some people that I work with watch the show.
I don't know if anybody watches it.
But no, there's a couple of them that do, and I don't hate the ones that are watching. But
Yeah, you, and you.
no, you know who you are. But
I don't, but you do.
no, I love George. George is watching. George is a good friend of mine at work, and he watches.
Hey, George.
The show. He'll appreciate the shout out. But no, it doesn't matter what job you're at. Every single job I've had, no matter how nice people you work with, it just seems like everybody just forgets everything as soon as they're on the clock. Like, it's just no one, you don't know, even the ones that are like super good, they know their job, they work hard 24/7. When you clock in or whatever you do to start your day, it just seems like everything's gone. You're a completely different person at work. And it's so frustrating sometimes because I am a logical being that exists only in ones and zeros. So I don't understand it. But it just drives me goddamn mad.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think everybody or the majority of people are just out to get you.
That doesn't help my paranoia at all. Like, no, Terry, you're the one that's crazy. Dave didn't just have a stroke and stand in the corner for a whole minute straight, staring at headphones. That didn't happen.
that still happened, but you're still crazy.
Yeah, it just makes sense to everybody but me.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. It makes sense. Dave was over there. He does that.
Yeah, I was having a good day, and then Terry's like, "What are you doing?"
Till he called you out.
I was trying to get the headphones from you. You kept walking away. I'm like, what's wrong with Dave?
Dave was fine until you called him out.
So,
And he lost it.
no, okay, he was like, what do they call, what was that lie that, that Heisenberg says in Breaking Bad when he tries to explain to his family why he was just in the middle of the desert and there was drug dealers around. He was like, I had one of those mental breaks and he didn't remember walking off into the desert.
Season 1.
Yeah. That's exactly what Dave just did.
Yep.
No recollection, just wanders off, and I brought him back. He was like, what are you talking about? I wasn't standing in the corner of my underwear.
I do not recall.
You're not being indicted right now. I do not recall.
I'm going to build a great wall. It's going to be high, like really tall. Like it's a wall.
Okay, Donald Trump.
I do not recall, and I plead the fifth are two very different things. You say I plead the fifth when you are guilty of a crime, but you do not have to incriminate yourself. So that's when you plead the fifth. So when people who claim to be innocent say I plead the fifth, they are unknowingly basically incriminating themselves.
I do not recall.
That's when you say I do not recall. So it's always funny when you hear somebody like on the stand, like you hear like these dumb people go like, oh, I plead the fifth. I'm like, that means that you did something wrong. Like, that's not, don't say that. Or when you're just being questioned by the police.
Right.
And they're like, well, I'm pleading the fifth. I'm like, that's not what the Fifth Amendment is.
No.
That's why you say you just use your right to remain silent.
Exactly. That's exactly.
That's what the Miranda right is.
You don't even have to say it. You can just remain silent. So give me a lawyer.
Just point at them, you know.
The reason actually why I'm trying to segue to this actually is I'm working on a new series called.
You were arrested today.
I was
weren't you?
arrested. I was trying to talk to Dave about this yesterday, but he was sleepy and texting, and I didn't want to murder him, so I walked away. But I was getting really into Batman, and I am doing a series, and I'm announcing it here, so if anyone copies me, I have full rights to it.
Gotcha.
It's The People versus Batman, which is the name of some other things. That's what I'm calling the YouTube series. And essentially, I'm going to explain why vigilantes are bullshit in the form of comics, why I love comics so much, and how I can contradict them while still loving them. But the main crux of it came from a few conversations I've had with you guys, in fact, on this podcast a few times, where everybody that Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, anybody were to drop off at a police station, unless they have physical evidence, which they almost never do, they would all be set free. Because I can beat you up and take you to a police station and say, coppers, this dude was robbing me. And you can say, no, I did not do that. And they'd have to believe you just as much as they'd have to believe me. No matter if I was wearing a bat costume or not.
I mean, I feel like the bat costume would take away credibility.
Exactly.
But the robber's the bad guy, Terry.
And no matter how many times I whip him up and hang him upside down from a fucking flagpole, It won't change that. But the cops don't have to believe you. And it's a he said, she said thing at that point, or he said, depending on where Spider-Man is in continuity, because it could be Spider-Gwen, so it could be Spider-Woman, so it could be she said, he said.
I see.
Sorry, I caught a glimpse of your Spider-Verse background on your
Oh,
computer,
yeah.
and I got lost in
In
Spider-Verse.
In the multitude of Spider-Man.
Exactly. Leo Pardon, his giant robot, is going to come down and smash me. But so I have a small series on that I started filming yesterday. Actually, I was going to surprise you guys with it, but since you are my partners, I figured I would say something here now. So when these videos go up on YouTube, you're not just like,
Well, when you show me, I'll probably be like, I do not recall.
I don't
plead the fifth.
I don't do well with surprises.
Just shoot me. Sorry, I didn't know what to do. I panicked. I see you packing. That's like when Dave found out I was having a kid. He's like packing a bag for Canada because he didn't understand what responsibility was going to fall on him, which is zero responsibility. And he was just like, "Man, I don't know if I can handle this pressure." You did that. You walked off into the corner and just stared for a little
Walked
while.
off into the sunset with my headphones.
It was always you just Bruce Bannered it.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, no, name wasn't Bruce in the. He went. By
was
his middle
David.
name. It was David. Yeah, because it's David Bruce Banner or Bruce David Banner. Yeah, because we're nerds. We know what.
You know how much I would complain to my mom about that, and she didn't care because she didn't read comic books?
Yeah, she didn't give a fuck. They watched the Hulk. And it was a cool show, and they're
Yep.
like, "You shut the fuck up. That's Hulk."
That's like
It was more like, with
everybody
my
I
mom, it was
talk
more
to.
like, no.
No, Superman. No, I don't know why I turned your mom into a Spanish immigrant, but
Bruce Banner,
Go
no
vacuum
here.
the wall now.
kitty, no. I come in anyway. I come in anyway.
So when are we going to start watching all those Marvel movies?
I don't know. We need to catch up before Civil War. There's just so many now. 12 or 16. I forget
Wait,
numbers.
there's
It's,
more
it's
than
about
3?
12.
Yeah, it's about 12.
Yeah, we
Okay.
did the counting, and it's like 6 each phase.
Yeah, so I thought it was 12, but I couldn't remember. I get 12 and 16 mixed up in numbers because that's how humans work.
Well, you turn the 2 upside down. It's an omega symbol.
It's an omega symbol. Half-Life 3 and Darkseid confirmed. There's a duality there. But we should probably start watching them soon. They did a new trailer. I didn't watch it. I didn't react to it just because we have 3 Captain America Civil War reactions on our channel already. People don't give a fuck. I didn't even see anybody talk about this one on the internet. But this is the first one in a long time that showed new footage since the Spider-Man one. And that's again why I didn't want to watch it. Is because I've seen enough. They got me.
Yeah, we've already seen plenty.
It's the same thing with Rogue One. So like, other than having to react to stuff, I don't really want to see anymore because I feel like I've seen enough of it. I got everything I wanted to get out of it. It looks good. It looks like pre-New Hope, which is cool, and not in a prequel pre-New Hope kind of way. Everyone was like freaking out about Mon Mothma. Who the fuck gives a fuck about Mon Mothma? She was in like 2 scenes in the original trilogy, and most of it was just like, they're the bad guys. We're gonna go blow up their toys.
Get him!
Get 'em!
Get him!
Many Bothan spies lost their lives to give us these plans.
The only reason why I think that she should have like any sort of like mention and people talk her up a little bit more is because number one, she was rebelling against the Galactic Empire before anyone else because she was a politician.
Yep.
And then they fleshed it out more in the comic books, but
it was her and Organa.
Exactly.
And maybe a couple other senators.
yeah,
and
her
whatnot.
and Bale were like the ones that were leading the charge. So also like not only is she a woman in power, but also a woman who is rebelling against like a fascist society. So that is really cool, and she deserves points for that. But as a character with lines in those movies, she means nothing. She said, "Go there," and Leia was like, "Yeah," and the other guys were like, "Sure," and Admiral Akbar was like, "It's a trap." But other than that, she didn't really do much. So, like, while I was excited to see that they brought back the chick from Revenge of the Sith, which was cool to see her like reprising her role as Mon Mothma. But did you say retcon that?
Yeah.
Retcon Revenge of the Sith or her being in both? She's fine. What's wrong with her being in Revenge of the Sith? The only thing that I think I would have a problem with her being in Revenge of the Sith and her being in the original trilogy is that 30 years are supposed to pass and she looks like she aged like maybe 5. Because because in Revenge of the Sith she's supposed to be like a young politician, and then in the original trilogy she's supposed to be an older politician, but she's still pretty young. She's still pretty hot. You know what I mean? In those movies, she's not supposed to be like some old lady. So
I mean, I hear British people age different in space.
I thought they're Time Lords.
Yeah, you know what? That
Is
could be
everyone
it.
who's British not Time Lords?
I mean, once they go into space, they become Time Lords, I assume.
Okay, because I thought they were either Sherlock Holmes or Time Lords. Those are the only two British people. And Luther. I know Idris Elba. Other than those three, I don't know any other British people.
I mean, that's all you need to know.
Right, those are the important ones, right?
Yeah.
What is a queen?
Queen.
And it's a figurehead.
Is queen British?
Queen. Lots of British.
Just his mustache.
Yeah,
just Freddie Mercury's mustache is British. I don't know why people watch this show.
That's where he got all his power from.
That's why you know as his career progressed, it just got bigger and
Yep.
bigger because he was getting more powerful.
And then,
Yes.
and then when he died, he transferred his power to
Eric Nally.
Adam
No.
Levine.
No, fuck, I can't think of his name.
Are you talking about the current singer?
The Bandit from
That's Adam
Smokey and the Bandit.
Adam.
Oh no, not Adam Levine, Adam
Lambert.
Lambert. But Adam Levine's also important.
Not Tom Selleck, but that's a good one too.
Oh,
Burt Reynolds.
yeah.
He was the bandit.
I know. That's I said that and you didn't.
No, I did. I was when you said it's not the bandit, I was like, so not Burt Reynolds. I was so confused.
Oh shit. Yeah, I did say that wrong. I meant to say Smokey and the Bandit, but he was not Smokey.
He wasn't Smokey.
No,
Not the titular character.
no, not.
He was the and the bandit.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we talking about this? All because
mustache.
all I was trying to
Power.
say
But-
is that everyone on the internet was freaking out about Mon Mothma, and I think that's just because they know that that's a name. like everyone's like Grand Moff Tarkin. I was like, that wasn't Tarkin. That was just a dude in a cape. He's actually a different dude. And everyone's like, damn it. And I'm like, it's still gonna be good. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be
me and
Tarkin.
Jordan were like, is that Tarkin?
No, I remember you guys talked
That's
about
what
on the
he said.
reaction. Yeah, no, it's not Tarkin. It's a different character that's introduced, which makes sense because so the rebels, we know they succeed in getting. We don't know who dies in the way, but we know they get spoilers. The rebels get the planes the first Death Star.
No, they don't. No.
I don't believe you.
And in the beginning of A New Hope is, Darth Vader trying to hunt down who stole the things. And Tarkin is the only person that he's afraid of, which means he's really high ranked, which because he's like almost right below Emperor Palpatine. What if Tarkin is lower ranked in a Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and whoever the dude in the white cape is fails the Emperor and Darth Vader, so they put him down, raising Tarkin up.
Yeah.
The rising tide raises all ships. So Vader goes up in rank, so does Tarkin, so does several other people. And it still doesn't explain why Tarkin has power over Vader. I think that was more just like a plot hole because that was only supposed to be one movie. But you know what I mean?
Within the universe, it doesn't necessarily make sense.
Exactly. But just as as a theory, because Tarkin, you don't know how long he was in power.
Right.
So if you forget about the whole Vader being afraid of him thing, that would make sense why they're because. If, which they don't do a good job again, we're always centered on the same planets, the same 4 people and their families.
Yep.
But if Rogue One is supposed to be a story about other people, it would completely make sense that other than Tarkin, other than Vader, other than the Emperor, there would be high-ranking Imperial officers that would have access to the Death Star.
And don't get choked in the first 5 minutes of their appearance.
Exactly. Although they did, as you guys talked about, and a lot of people are going crazy how they did drop the little soundbite of Vader exhaling, which was it was cool. They didn't do the whole breath. It was just
Made people question for a little while.
exactly. Yeah, I was like, the fuck was that? Because they didn't show Vader. Vader exists at this point in time. He'd be at the height of his power, really, if you think about it. So it was just interesting. I was in a really Star Wars kicky mood today. I was reading on IO9. They were talking about Hor. Do you guys know who Hor is?
No.
Hor is a
Don't talk about my mom like that.
he's a Tusken Raider. He's a sand person.
Wait, I think he was in that one game that's
Yes, he
absolutely
was.
terrible.
He was in Masters of Terrakasi or whatever the fuck that game was called. The one that you talk about and that was on when Funky Fresh was
No, I don't talk about that one. I talk about
I
power
don't
battles.
talk
That was
about
my
this.
favorite game.
You're wrong. But your opinion is wrong. Especially when it comes to Masters of Terrakasi.
I don't promote that Terrakasi bullshit.
He's jumped around with the expanded universe, but they were just talking with here's a little known character that you might not know about. It was like, okay, his name is Hor, and he was a Sith and a Jedi and also a Tusken Raider. But my point being is that we were talking about them not having to be related to everybody, and this was just a random character that didn't need to be related to anybody who could be a Sith, could be a Jedi. He doesn't have to be, so they tied it in all together there, right? Also, Anakin killed his whole family when he was getting revenge for them killing
Oh, of course.
Shmi. So like it's
As
tied
one
into the
would.
main characters too. Dumb. That's all I had to say about that. So that's my thoughts on Rogue One. I'm excited for it.
I am too.
I love that there's going to be another chick leading. Jin, what's her last name?
Urso.
Urso.
Yep.
Jin Urso looks awesome. I hope she's not the parent of anybody. I don't want her to
Yeah,
be
they've
raised.
already got rumors of her being the parent.
And
of
it's
Rey.
not even rumors. It's just conjecture.
Yeah.
There's nothing to go on other than a picture of her wearing Imperial Guard.
Honestly, before I even saw the trailer and I just saw like some stills, I was like, everybody's gonna say that's
And that's the thing,
mom.
because there's only been so many movies, which is hard to say since there's been 7. But you know what I mean?
But I
Like,
mean, within like certain characters,
exactly.
it's-
It's always revolved around the Skywalkers and
they're
everything.
Like, oh, it has to tie in. It has to tie in.
Exactly. And the same thing. Like I even did that last week when I read Across the Stars or whatever the young adult one was. And I was saying, like, these could be Rey's parents. And I'm like, but I know they're not, and I hope they're not, you know,
Yeah.
because even though it makes sense, I guess, in the fact where a man and a woman had sex and made a baby, and Rey had to have been a baby at some point.
Are you sure?
No, she could be a clone because this is Star Wars. Or she could be Spider-Man, also other clone things. Or Sephiroth. If I'm just going on all the things I like that are clones. Like that's the only way it adds up. So Jin could, being a woman, reproduce a baby who could be Rey because Rey presumably could have been a baby at some point in her life. And that's the only thing that we tie together with these things. But because it's just like when they first showed Finn, everyone's like, "Oh, he's got to be Lando's kid." I was like, because he's black. Because there's no other black people in space, right?
Racist fucks.
No, but that was the thing. And it wasn't even purely racism. It's ignorance.
Yeah.
But there's only so many characters that we've seen because Star Wars has so much focused on just
Those specifics.
exactly. So
It's a
and
whole
we want
galaxy,
all-
but we've got 5 main characters.
and that's
See,
exactly it.
I
you
just
know?
say you go full Skywalker. It's Luke and Leia's kid.
Another one. It's just-
Oh, God.
because Rey is also their illegitimate Game of Thrones baby.
Yep.
That is my standing.
Gotta go
standing
double
theory.
Skywalker
Did you guys
there.
see the ad? Because they're doing that new fundraiser campaign, and it was just
Oh,
Mark Hamill
yeah,
just staring at the
yeah.
camera.
Yes.
We started cracking up after that.
I hadn't watched the ad. I just saw pictures, and I was like, he's looking just like he did at the end of Force Awakening. I gotta look at this, and I watched it, and it was like exactly that. It was just him staring. Like, oh,
Yep.
I have lines. I'm like, this is the best thing I've seen. all
like
week.
dialogue?
Yeah, like the host asks him like 3 questions. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have dialogue." Okay.
Did you guys watch the special features on the Blu-ray yet?
No.
You go, okay, so they're not that good. I was a little disappointed by the deleted scenes, but there was really one cool, like, there's a really cool featurette, like, making of the film, which had a lot of cool stuff. It showed, like, the dancing
Making
stuff.
of
and,
spoiler alert.
yeah. It is not a documentary. I know it was made like, a long, long time ago in a galaxy far away. We don't have that footage. So this is our best artist rendering of what happened in that galaxy. So it opens up with a dude driving BB-8 because not all they weren't like, you know, all remote controlled. Sometimes there was like the dude pushing him on the little crane thing. And then it cuts and it was Poe Dameron, Oscar Isaac showing them his little shuffle he did in is it Ex Machina, whatever movie he did that he danced. So he's like all of the fighter pilots are like doing their little jig, and it cuts through a couple of things. But then it gets to the table reading, and you know, like they really faked us out because we thought Mark Hamill was going to be a main character of this movie because he was in that first table reading. You know, like reading the script. That was the first picture we saw, and they're like, "Yeah, Force Awakens is happening." And we're like, "The fuck?" Yeah. Episode 7, and then we were all like, "Where the fuck is Hamill for the next 5 years?" But what he was doing during the table reading was he was reading the setting and he was the narrator.
Oh.
Yeah, so he wasn't just doing nothing the whole time. He was
Right.
like, yeah, and then the camera pans in on this desert planet. Like that was it. That's what he was doing while he was there.
And then the Joker comes in and stabs somebody. I mean, I'm sorry, my bad.
No, he just stares intently. But yeah, so that was the one cool thing. But the rest of it is, you know, the Ash scene explained Kylo Ren a little bit more. Like, there's no hope for him. He's lighting people on fire and then keeping their ashes in his room because he's angsty.
Well, I mean, what else would you do with him?
I don't know. Not overcompensate. I still really like Kylo in the fact that he's being seduced by the light side of the Force.
Yeah, that was a really neat thing that they did with him that I loved.
And I like the movie. We have lots of little quibbles like, oh my god, this and that, but it was good. And if you say otherwise, you're dumb.
Yeah, at the end
No,
of the day, it was a Star Wars
your
movie
opinion is valid.
that we hadn't gotten like friggin' years.
And, but in contrast, you could say that about the prequels, too.
Right.
And these were not the prequels, which I think is enough for me to like them, period.
And the difference is this was a good Star Wars movie.
It's kind of like when my wife asks me to help with something, and then I purposely do a terrible job at first.
So the next time.
Hey, so the next time, she either doesn't ask me to do it, so I don't have to worry about it, or whatever I do does not look as bad as the last time.
See, I was just telling my coworker earlier today how when you're you meet up with somebody that has like a job opening and you want that job, you kind of seed yourself at first that you're such a great worker, and then again they get excited after you tell them that, and then you kind of bring yourself down a little.
You got to backpedal. You got to backpedal. Like, hold on. I didn't say I had a college degree. I said I respect people with college degrees.
And then you just bring yourself back up just a little bit so that they're like, okay, well, we'll set you up.
I went to college once.
Yeah.
I visited a campus.
That's how you get the job.
I didn't say I had a doctorate. I said I went to the doctors. You misheard me on the phone.
I went to the doctor and ate.
Yes, back to back. It's so funny that you said that because the spoilers that we are real people and actually have lives outside of this.
I don't.
One of the that ruins the whole story. One of the jobs that you were applying for, I applied for today. So we might be coworkers.
Yeah,
if either one of us get hired.
You're more likely to because you have more experience.
I have experience. If anyone wants to hire me, I have great networking and tech experience.
I have credentials.
Yeah, I know how to read and answer a phone and say, "Did you try turning it off and on again?"
I did learn to read this year.
No, you did not.
I learned to read some.
I learned a letter. It was B.
It
was. I taught you.
Oh, good goodness. Speaking of that, we'll get off Star Wars for a little bit. We did the most nerdy thing that I think I've ever done, and that's saying a lot. Just looking around this room, looking at the things I own and what happens exclusively out here other than hand jobs is...
Well, we have blowjobs, too.
Oh, yeah, blowjobs, too. Other than...
Blowjobs 3, too.
Other than sexual deeds in between coworkers, also we play board games and whatnot. But the nerdiest thing I've ever done is spend almost 72 hours straight playing a tabletop RPG.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was the most fun I've ever had playing a tabletop RPG.
Really?
Yeah.
That means so much. That was like I finally got to finish a campaign, and I was nervous just because like you guys have. So before we get into this, we were playing GURPS, which is generic universal role playing system. And Steve Jackson games. It's almost completely depending on how you play a D6 tabletop game. So think D&D, but you can flavor it anyway. So we did superheroes, but you can do GURPS fantasy. So it's like D&D. You can do horror. There's books for everything. It's a very general system, so you can transfer anything to it. Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite role playing games, just because it's so easy to learn because it's just D6.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite now because it's mostly role playing.
Yes, it's almost entirely role playing.
It's a lot less gamey, but it has the ability to be very gamey if you want to do it that way.
Exactly. You can pick and choose the rules like you can with any RPG, but where D&D is more like an actual RPG video game because you have your moves, what you can do each turn. Whereas in GURPS has those items if you want it, but again, it's more general. It's more role playing. You have the systems that support that if you want to, but you can take it or leave it either way. And I really appreciate that kind of pick and choose system. And also the point buying system makes you less worried about leveling up, which sometimes that's fun. In D&D, you definitely feel like that progression, whereas in the progression you get out of GURPS is more story-wise.
Oh, yeah.
So like your character can say you trained at a dojo this week and learned several judo moves. You would then put that on your character sheet. You don't have to level up to learn judo mastery. You just say, I learned how to, throw someone over my shoulder.
Yeah, as long as it's explainable, you can throw it right in there.
Exactly.
Within reason, because
today now I kick people.
No, I'm quite good at kicking.
Yeah.
And even though you're not, but I will let you roll as in you've kicked somebody before. You have prior experience.
Yep.
This is why we don't get hired places. So I had this harebrained scheme several years ago that we were going to play GURPS Supers. Now, GURPS Supers is super. It is super. It is a lot more complicated when it comes to numbers because nerds will understand this analogy because you play Magic the Gathering. You have 1s through 10s for attack, defense, your character's health. But then you have Yu-Gi-Oh!, which, because it's Japanese and awesome and spiky hair, you have thousands. So your character has 3,000 attack and 4,000 defense and 2,000 health. And that's where supers is.
Yeah.
So you have D&D and normal GURPS where it's I rolled a 6, I do 6 damage. Or if you have supers, it's you roll a D6 times 42 plus 3, and then you did a backflip, so then you minus 1 dice. It turns into a fantasy flight
Well,
game
you have
almost,
super
but
strength, so multiply it by 2.
It's just really high numbers.
Yep, you did arm day today, so multiply by 5.
You did arms today. No, you would minus by 5 because your arms are going to be tired.
Oh,
but
yeah.
tomorrow you would be jacked.
Yeah. Well, you still got to recover.
You still got to recover. So next week you'll be
Exactly.
twice as strong.
Exactly.
Because that's how working out works.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't do it.
But
We are, I was gonna say, we are all about instant gratification here at Cave Trolls.
But I mean, I've GM'd and DM'd you two in a couple of different campaigns and styles. I've played with you back in the day. We played in the same D&D campaigns. We actually have a podcast going up with our old DM going up soon, Mark. And Analogical Life, shout out. Find him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Follow his blogs. He's awesome. Smartest guy I ever known. If anyone takes over the world, it'll probably be him. So you can just narrow it
Oh,
down.
most likely. I mean, I expected that.
But
But plot twist, we got Trump.
he can't take over the world.
So
Someone
just
will-
build a wall around it.
gonna
Someone
say
will kill
one wall
him.
at a
Yeah,
time.
one wall at a time. He's taking over the world like you play Risk. It's like, strong on somebody.
I just
so you can roll a die.
imagine the United States ending up how it did in fucking Hunger Games with all the districts separated with walls.
This is how it happens, people. This is how Pan Am starts.
Can we get a picture of Donald Trump like doctored up to look like
Jennifer
President Snow?
Lawrence? Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I like the Jennifer Lawrence idea
There's
more.
a whole different thing that's going on in my mind. So my point being, we played GURPS all weekend, and we played with our now current DM who runs our D&D campaign. He's only DM'd just us, and he's never even played a role-playing game before, tabletop-wise. He's only DM'd them. So coming in, I was like, I had a lot of pressure because I want to, show you guys that I still got it when it comes to GMing, and also show him like a different style of playing. So I concocted this huge, complicated superhero story, which is like almost it's like 100 issues packed into one weekend, and we played for 72 hours straight. And by the end of it, you guys said you had a lot of fun and that I was completely harebrained insane.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's-
we already knew that.
That's what I was gonna say. Long story short, we found out further than we knew that Terry was totally insane.
So can you guys go into some depth without I was gonna say spoilers? No one's ever gonna hear that story.
Right.
Maybe I might publish it one day.
We're not gonna put on the big screen.
No, we might. It depends. If I can ever sell my other book, then maybe.
As long as Mechanosuit dies at the end.
What is so insane about it? Was it like how much time I put into it, or was it how much story I put into it? Like I'm
Just like how certain things matched up in the story, because I wasn't really expecting friggin' Daniel the Wanderer.
okay. So essentially, because again, these people don't. That's what I was trying to say.
Right.
They don't know anything
Right.
we're talking about. But essentially, so I brought characters, but I made a real story out of it. It wasn't we walk into a tavern, beat up those guys. So I put some time into it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, especially people who don't play these kind of things or only into video games, they don't know the level of fun that you can get out of a role-playing game. So like a tabletop game. We've always wanted to play D&D, so it's been a little bit weird for us to talk about this, I guess. But what is it that makes us willing to sit around and roll dice like somebody would play 20,000 hours of Dragon Age or Witcher?
It's the story for me, because I can get, in my opinion, some much stronger storylines from like an RPG that we all play together instead of one game where I have to slog through 20 hours of leveling up to do this one thing, and then hey, I do one chapter of the story mission, and then go back to 20 hours of slogging through grinding. And
Right. And those can still be fun. I mean, I've gotten some really good stories out of this. Some of my favorite stories are
yeah,
that.
I'm not saying they're all bad. They
No,
can be
but-
good and enjoyable, but I just have more fun constantly.
Right.
doing this.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for me, it's similar. Like how in a video game, you're playing a video game, it's a story, but in the end, it's a video game.
Right.
Role-playing games for me, tabletop is a lot more like a book. Reading a book, you're reading this story, and then with D&D or GURPS, you get to actually play out this story, and your character that you've created is actually a part of the story that you helped create.
Right. And it's more than, like, in Dragon Age, you create your own character. In Western RPGs, you do create a character, but that's still somebody else's story. And even though this is my story, like, I wrote bullet points in it, you guys fleshed it out and also made it your own. Things, and part of it, a lot of the fun that I have from it, and this is just probably just as like a GM, but I also do it when I play as a player too. The improv of it, the role playing off the cuff So I'll say a line that you guys weren't expecting. You guys talk back to it more than just choosing the dialogue choice.
Yeah.
It's an infinite sandbox. So other than your imagination, there's not a lot of limits.
It's more of a real interaction with fake characters.
Right. And though it doesn't necessarily always have the best visuals because it is in your mind. So I mean, it is really cool to actually fight a dragon in Witcher.
But also, it could have better visuals because it's in your mind.
Right. It's the theater of the mind kind of thing. And I take a little bit more cinematic approach. I have pictures. I do music.
Like Jordan's story will look like a Da Vinci. Mine looks like I drew with crayon.
Yours actually is very Lovecraftian. It's very abstract, even when we talked about things.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you cross over different planes. But that's another reason why I enjoy it, because I can do anything I want with it, and as long as you guys are entertained, I can tell any story. Because, like I said, like I pulled it from a book that I was writing, like the main story of it. But you guys really enjoyed it because I wrote it for you. So, and that doesn't mean that there were inside jokes, but I wrote it for you guys to have fun with. So that might not necessarily translate to everybody, but it was amazing for you three. So where Dragon Age has to appeal to a mass audience, I had to appeal to 3 people.
Yeah.
So I could make a really cool thing for those 3 people. And that's where a lot of people, have trouble with main settings for like RPGs. Like not everyone likes Forgotten Realms or Eberron, any of those D&D campaigns, just because those are made for a wider swath of an audience. And where, like I said, I could make one that I know exactly what you guys like. I know the gritty superhero stuff that you guys like. So I was able to do that.
The other thing is like you can add actual emotion into it. Like
Right.
with my character, I felt like
I'm so sorry.
Okay, so my character technically had another hero that he was competing with, almost like a nemesis.
Right.
My character didn't get chosen for the team, and that character did.
So essentially, you guys are both Tony Stark-esque characters. You
Yes.
both had created suits of armor that were powered, and there was like, we'll call them like the Avengers. In my book, it was called the Coalition. And you were both essentially trying out for the team. He bought his way on the team. You couldn't do that. You weren't rich anymore. And he became your rival, even though it was more a one-sided rivalry because he was rich and famous. But so I played the song by the Struts, Could Have Been Me, one of my favorite songs, really, really good song.
It was one of my favorite songs.
It started out as your anthem, and it became your
Downfall.
Yeah, it's like a soliloquy. It's just like played over. It's gonna be playing at your wake, essentially.
It turned into a dirge.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's the first thing. So I essentially was able to turn it into like a visceral thing for you, where like you were like actually like physically emotional about it.
Like my character felt it and I felt it, and now every time I hear that song, all I can think about is this campaign where I have this arch nemesis that took my place, and it could have been me.
And that's something like I
I could have
apologize.
been on the new coalition.
I apologize to you because it was like I do feel bad because I did make you feel a negative emotion, but the fact that I could evoke it was really cool. And just as a writer, which not a lot of my stuff is seen, like I'm not famous or anything, but you guys do get to see my writing from time to time. To see it actually have impact like that it was really, really cool for me. And just like you saying like that was one of your favorite role playing experiences means a lot to me, just because I put so much into that weekend. And that's why when I showed Jonathan, who's been on the show, I already wrote book 2. The next time we get together, we can do it. And he was like, "You already did that?" I was like, "We had so much fun and so many things happened. It was so easy for me."
Yeah.
And now those characters, you guys brought those characters to life, so they're so easy to write because I would write them how you guys acted them. They're not you necessarily, but they're your characters, and you guys gave them personality. And now, you
get to build off that personality.
Exactly. It was just so easy to continue writing in that world.
Hex Machina will remember this.
What's up with you and puns, man?
I love them. I've always loved puns, and I always love that groan reaction I get from everyone else.
So Hex Machina is your robotic mage, essentially. And what was the new one that you came up with?
Abracadaver,
Which is
an undead mage.
Oh goodness! See what I mean? This is the kind of things that come out of GURPS and D&D, and I do GURPS supers just because I like the GURPS system, and it's so easy for me to translate these to different fantasy genres. So supers, horror, fantasy, I can cross over each setting. If you do want to just do like a superhero campaign, I recommend Champions is really good. The DC, I forget the name of it, the DC role-playing game, basically based off Champions, but more DC flavored, which is really cool. It's before Crisis, so you have like Golden Age Superman and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Well, it'd be Silver Age, but you know what I mean. But also a really good game. there's tons of different role-playing games, but check them out. Even if you haven't given them a chance, get a few friends together, get one person who's really good at math and improv, let him be DM, and just go have fun with it, because it is an experience that I'm not going to, just say nerd should have, but everybody who has ever been interested in being someone else,
Right.
whether that be role-play, whether that be super depression and you don't want to be you.
I mean, to each their own.
Exactly.
Right.
The escapism of it is amazing. And also the video game nerd, someone who just likes playing RPGs, it's totally worth your time.
Yeah.
I mean, and you do kind of need friends, but you don't have to have a group of 5 people.
No.
And that's why there are different role-playing games. There are a couple of things in GURPS that I could do one-on-one.
Mm-hmm. And depending on how your DM or GM scales it, you can easily have a campaign with just 2 people playing.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, especially, I keep going back to GURPS just because there's so many different settings that I can cross over to. But you can play any kind of campaign. It doesn't have to be dragons and swords.
And it can cross over boundaries too.
Yeah.
Like you go through a dimensional wormhole and go straight into another dimension, fight some dragon.
Exactly.
And then boom, you're back in New York City.
And John puts it a really good way. Tabletop role playing is like playing in like literal sandbox as kids, which is a little bit of rules thrown in. You know? Mm-hmm. It's ruled imagination.
And people still kick sand in my face.
It's all grown up.
Exactly. Oh God. Always comes back to Nickelodeon somehow.
But yeah. Essentially, it just creates and builds lasting friendships.
It really does. And it's done.
Or destroys them.
I mean, me and you, we were close before we started playing D&D together, but we really bonded over playing D&D, and Spider-Man, obviously.
It has its what's the word I'm looking for? Just inside jokes that you have just normally with normal people when you hang out.
Right.
And then it also helps just with improv.
It really does. If that's another thing is if you want to do stand-up comedy or improv, it's a really good way to do that because you don't have to necessarily yes and, but the DM is there to make sure you do yes and. Mm-hmm. So there's a yes and cop in the room saying, no, you did that, roll the dice. And everyone wants to go along with it because you're playing an adventure together. And it's done a lot just for, comedic timing and stuff like that with our group. And
right.
You just just like to role play. So it's done a lot, from our writing, your writing got like 10 times better when you started playing D&D. Because I remember when you first came, you're like, I have this really cool idea, but I've never really wrote before. And so I was like, that's a cool premise. And you're like, I just don't know how to write. And this is like junior year of high school, and then we played D&D 2 or 3 times, and you can't even be like, man, I finished my story. It opened up that side of your mind, that left brain thinking kind of, and bridged them. But that's my rant on on that. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about when it comes to role playing? Is there anything that you guys want to pitch to them? You know what I mean?
I mean, a Star Wars universe would always be fun.
And that's not, like I said, it doesn't have to be always sword and fantasy and dragons.
And it could also be your favorite book setting.
Yeah. We're gonna do hopefully in the next month, depending on when my baby's born, for your birthday, we're doing a Night Angel trilogy. Thank you, Brent Weeks, for writing such a cool world.
And if we're not ready with that, and we could also just go with Digimon because
both are ready to go.
Yeah,
both are ready and written. But that's what I mean. You can play in any world because it's just it's who wants to sit down and write out the mechanics. So how many die do you roll when Agumon attacks a dragon? You know what I mean? That's the only thing you got to come up with.
Well, I mean, does he have his Draymond Destroyer gloves on or not? What's going on?
Just the ribbon. He just has the ribbon.
Oh,
from the
minus 2 points.
One of the things that happened in yours was you were attacked by dimensional beings, so Lovecraftian, and I'm just gonna use that just as a really bland segue to talk about. I've been reading Lovecraft Country.
Right? Yeah. How is that?
It's so good. So Matt Ruff, author of a couple other books that I can't think of off the top of my head because I haven't read them yet. But Lovecraft Country, essentially, it's a love letter to Lovecraft stories, but also they come from a racist background because H.P. Lovecraft
So it's a Lovecrafted letter?
Exactly. Lovecraft was a racist piece of shit.
Oh, yeah.
But he had some interesting ideas when it came to fiction, and this does a perfect combination of showing how tragic it was back in Jim Crow, but also that they didn't always have to be necessarily victims. The heroes, Atticus especially, one of them, Atticus and Letitia are the 2 main characters in the story, and they're African Americans in a time where it was one of the worst times to be.
Right.
Not that there's ever really been a good time to not be white, essentially. But it's so cool because they don't just show them as the victims. They are victims, but they turn it around and they become some of the most interesting heroes I've read ever. That's why I've been so much on a kick about it, just because it's so good and it's written like an anthology tale. That there are tales that go back and forth between the different characters in the book, and it all strings together with an overarching Lovecraftian story. So there's secret societies, there's ghosts, there's interdimensional travel, there's monsters, and it just is so cool. So you're just kind of getting into Lovecraft, right?
Yeah, I bought the basically compendium of Lovecraft fiction.
So what do you think so far? Since you've never really read any other Lovecraft stories other than just H.P. Lovecraft, what are you thinking so far about his writing?
Well, it like you said, it is very racist, and at first it came off as in he was writing in the perspective of a racist character, which
Right.
I could get because I mean all his stories are basically like a journal entry,
Right, and they were from a long fucking time
Yeah.
ago. And that makes
it's-
sense.
and like some of them aren't plain out racist, but they just say like that Mexican. I'm like, okay,
And then like and it goes further with that, and like they're essentially red shirts in a lot of his stories.
Yeah.
Which was a little bit bothersome, but again, it's the time. Not gonna write it off.
The last story I read really like was the one to freak me out a little bit, but I did see it coming. Guy just like cruising around New England trying to find some stuff out about his family, goes through this old house, looks abandoned, finds out there's someone sleeping upstairs. He also finds out there's a book on the table, and he starts talking to the guy who lived there, who was this old codger talking in a Yankee accent, which was written like he was from the South, but whatever. And come to find out, the old dude's just a cannibal, and this guy ain't gonna get out of the house.
And that's what I mean. Like his writing isn't the best. He's not the best writer. But the ideas that he came with, again, it's kind of like how we talk about Lord of the Rings. Whereas it's not my favorite fantasy story, but it's the godfather of that.
Right.
And it comes up, we've actually talked about it a couple times on this podcast about detaching the stories away from the authors. And that comes with not just stories, but the creators against their creation. It's like there's a couple of bands that I like that are just made up of terrible people.
One thing that I really love about Lovecraft's writing is that he's exceptionally good at building tension.
Yeah,
But
really good.
the ending of it just usually falls flat because it's like all this tension for okay.
I think that's it, sadly, because there's not much more. There wasn't really much justice back then, but that's his punishment for being racist. Is that
Yeah.
it was shitty and not really appreciated either in his time. But like, there's a couple other writers like Diedrich, not quite as racist, but still has some stories like that. He expanded upon like his horror universe and kind of put together a pantheon of the old ones, the ancient ones.
Eldritch horrors.
The Eldritch Horrors, exactly. But so there's better people that have written Lovecraftian stories that are less racist. Matt Ruff is one of them. But just I'll give you some recommendations after this. But just continue reading that word. Read Matt Ruff's Lovecraft Country. It's amazing. Not that long either, so you don't have to worry about trudging through.
And so far, all the Eldritch horror stories are the most fascinating.
Yeah, those are the ones that you hear about now because. I mean, they still have their faults, but they're the most interesting because you have Cthulhu. The reason why people know what Cthulhu is because those stories carried on past H.P. Lovecraft into other Lovecraftian horrors. Have you ever read anything that's Lovecraftian?
I haven't.
No, I'll recommend this book, but also it's one of those things where I don't know if you'd like it as much as I do if you didn't see what came before. But it seems like kids today don't like play the Atari to like Xbox.
Right.
So it's not a necessary thing. I just trying to take a step back. It's still really good writing, still an interesting story. I just don't know if I would be quite as in love with it if it wasn't the next progression in the stories that I read before. The reason why I love it so much, But who knows? It's just like I don't know if I would like Spider-Man as much as I do now if I didn't read it when I was a kid and wish it was something else, and now it became that
And
thing that I wanted.
I thought about it last night, and I think my interest in these types of stories comes from back when I was a kid watching Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Yo, Courage is totally a Lovecraftian story.
Yeah, I never thought about it before, but last night.
Why,
me and
wait, you were a
Dave-
kid.
Yeah.
Dave and I were talking about it just because some of those like scenes, there's a few specific ones that are
Yep.
just
Let's just bring up King Ramsey's tablet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't. It doesn't even have to be the horror aspect of it. Like just even like if you take back because it was weirdly tense, weirdly creepy. But if you take both those sides away from it, just like the way that the book is so weird, like take like again the intense and the creepy out of it, just so strange and out there. Where like it's anthological. It's an anthology tale essentially, because it's episode to episode. And it talks like it shows characters going insane and the different dimensions and the computer that talks to him. It's very Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know that as a kid, but then going back and watching it, you're like, oh, fuck. That had some levels to it.
Revenge of the Chicken from Outer Space.
That's a good ass. That was a good one. What was the one? The salesman that came to town.
Oh, with a big smile.
Yeah.
Oh, Freaky Fred?
Yeah.
Or not Freaky. It was something like that.
It was something like that.
His name was Fred.
Yeah, and then the flan.
Flan?
The flan. He was trying to sell the flan. This was a different one, actually. But
Okay.
It was like the flan. It was like the gelatin thing, the gelatinous thing that everyone got addicted to.
I don't remember that
It was
one.
like Twilight Zone, which is another
Right.
one that's very Lovecraftian just in some of its takes and stuff. It's just one of those types of stories that seems to have gotten lost.
Right.
At the risk of sounding really, really old on this generation. Like no one gives a fuck. But that's another thing I recommend. I mean, I'm just rambling a lot today. I think I had a long day. I just needed to like.
Well, we all ramble and meander, and I mean, I walked over there.
So Motor City Comic Con's coming. no segue.
That
just
was the
non-sequitur.
most natural segue I've heard today.
Completely. It's just like
Yeah,
so different
felt
topic.
smooth.
Costumes.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Costumes.
See, look at me like, where's Terry going with this? What's he doing? So and it's not just Motor City Comic Con. Comic Con period's coming around.
Right.
Motor City Comic Con's in May. And we live in Michigan, so it matters.
Yep.
Same thing with the Traverse City Comic Con, or what do they call it? The Cherry Festival Comic Con?
Yeah.
Something like that. Our Comic Cons are happening in May, which none of us will get to go to because we are busy with birthdays and babies and work. But it's cosplay season. What are we doing?
Well, I mean, could be a potato.
My goal was to stay in shape like I was last year. I was getting in really good shape last summer, and I have literally put on like 45 pounds this
Hell
year.
yeah.
So
Work happened, though.
work happened.
You could be the juggernaut,
A baby
bitch.
happened. Yeah, I'm not making excuses. The thing that happened was me not working out and eating lots. But so essentially, any super heroic outfits I was going to wear won't fit. So I'm debating on what I want to wear this year.
Carl, Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
I didn't get that big, man.
That's the love of
Well, I-
cosplay.
Exactly, because I can still wear whatever I want because I enjoy my body and other people enjoy my body. Gosh darn it. Mainly my wife. I'm not gonna get into the other ones. For your,
Because that's thing 1 and thing 2.
I plead the fifth.
I do not recall.
If you're thing 1 and thing 2, I want to be the Lorax.
But you don't speak for the trees.
I am the
I
walrus.
speak for the trees.
I am the walrus.
Your mustache is not big in yellow.
Freddie Mercury. My mustache is British.
But it's not big
Call
in
back.
yellow.
It can be big and yellow. I'll show you my big and yellow.
Oh. Big
Other
Bird?
other than the Blob, I don't know. There's been some really cool cosplay coming out. Just I love how much it's proliferated in the last couple of years. You just see it everywhere, which is really really cool. There, what is his name? Tom Radley is what he was calling it. It was male Tomb Raider, Lara Croft.
Oh, nice.
It was really really good. There's too many to talk about. I can't even name all the really good ones.
Well, because it's everything.
It's
now.
everything. I saw a really good Venture Brothers one.
Ooh,
last
that'd be
week.
fun.
Yeah, Brock Sampson, Rusty.
I could be
and-
Rusty.
Who's the chick? What's the one? She was like the really low cut.
Oh,
thing.
Molotov cocktease.
Molotov cocktees. The really really cosplay. Really good cosplay of that. I want to do a gender bent one, and I'll just basically wear the V thing that Borat wears.
Oh, God.
I think that could be a thing.
Should be the monarch.
No, I'll be Uncle Hatred.
Yeah. Boys, get to the panic room.
What's his wife's name? Is it little?
Oh,
not
fucking
Littlefoot.
Princess Tiny Feet.
Tiny feet. Venture Bros is amazing.
God, they're on like season 7, aren't they?
I think they're on season 6. Season 6 is on right now.
God,
It just finished.
I feel like I need to
Or it might be
rewatch
7.
that whole
7
series.
might have been the one that just played. Yeah. I haven't watched the season yet though. What do you want to cosplay?
Spider-Man.
Oh, as usual.
It's always Spider-Man.
It's always Spider-Man.
Can it hold out till I'm like? I mean, I have abs still. They're just really gross because there's rolls still.
You could
It's
be
really
Old
weird.
Man Parker.
Ouch, man. I'll just be Uncle Ben.
Oh, so we have to kill you?
No,
No.
Spider-Man doesn't kill Uncle Ben. What Spider-Man comes?
I'm not Spider-Man.
You're gonna cosplay as the thug that kills Uncle Ben?
No, but Uncle Ben has to die. He can't be alive.
I really worry about you sometimes. Just like sometimes, like when I'm not around, I'm just like, wonder if Dave's okay. I just picture you just like touching hot things. Like, no, Dave, no! Just like touching the radiator.
To Dave is just destiny. That's just how it has to be. Just like why I love Spider-Man. If I didn't read older comics of Spider-Man, I would still love Spider-Man because that's just destiny for me.
What are you guys even talking about? I'm just talking about dressing up as Uncle Ben. No one murder me, please.
We're not doing that.
I plead the
Not
fifth.
I do not recall. I hate you too.
I love me.
Spider-Man.
No, but I don't know what I want to cosplay as this year. I've had no time to think about other things. Like I've wrote a lot this year, which has been cool, and getting this off the ground was a big deal. And cosplay has kind of always been like the tertiary stuff. Like it's, I really want to do that, so I'll kind of do it. And like we made the Batman costumes last year.
It just takes a lot of time and a lot of money.
Right, and we always say we're going to think about them earlier in the year, and then we wait till like the month before. I'm like, fuck, how do we do this?
It doesn't
We
take.
can still think about it now and do it for Halloween.
Right, and I mean it doesn't take a lot of money. It's just to us a lot of money is a very little amount of money.
That's true, and it depends on how far you want to go with it. too.
Right, and like I mean, like last year, yours was really intricate, and you did a lot with it, and you spent maybe what, $50, $60?
I don't remember.
I think the most expensive thing you bought was the piping.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I mean? To make your Screama sticks because you were Nightwing last year. I think that was like the most expensive thing you bought. For me, it was my mask because I didn't want to actually make one.
It might have been the puffy paint I used on my actual costume.
It
Puffy
might have
paint
been.
is not cheap.
I still really liked our idea to be Spider-Man Jedi.
Yeah.
I still really
Yeah,
like
I
that.
think that should still be on the
I
table.
wanted to do that for The Force Awakens, but
Yeah, we couldn't wear costumes though.
Yeah. I mean, we
Thanks,
could,
Obama.
Just very minuscule.
Thanks, terrorists.
Next, it's just going to be thanks, Trump.
No, because there's going to be too many legitimate racist people going, thank you, Trump.
Yep.
Kept all the Mexicans out of our country. That's the thing. Is like, I don't understand anyone's argument when they're like, you know, he's such a good guy. I'm like, no, but he's a dirty racist bastard.
He speaks what we're all thinking. No, he speaks what the idiots are thinking.
It's the outspoken minority. Essentially.
Yep.
The scary thing is though, there probably is a majority when it comes to those people.
Oh,
You know, in certain
yeah.
areas of the country. I don't want to get political about this. I have a dragon mat in front of me. I don't think this is the platform to be talking about politics.
I'd vote for the dragon. I would.
That's just his hair. That's what his hair is called. What happened?
I feel like his hair is more of a hippogriff.
What feel? In the comments below, you can tell us what mythical creature you think Trump's hair is. You can follow us on Twitter at CaveTrollsCast. If you want to email us, we are cavetrollscast@gmail.com. Go to our websites. I think I just had a stroke. Go to our website, cavetrollspodcast.squarespace.com, because we're cheap. You can find us on Facebook. Just look for Cave Trolls Podcast, I think. What are we on Instagram?
The Cave Trolls.
All right. We're The Cave Trolls on Instagram. I am at Resident Stevel on Twitter.
At David Tulgetske.
And I am at Extraordinary.